see that you're ready to go home. There's some TV shows that you see, but you know how long and he needs someone who's come and stay by the river with me for a while, and I'll tell you a story that's true of when I was born, laying here on the shore, and the grass was so green and the water so blue. Well, our house stood right over there, but of course they took it down for now. I can see my mama's tears. We've lived there for 20 years, and you know it would still be bad. As a kid, you could often but the rest of the neighborhood children, there was so much we could do. There was fishing, swimming too. There was always some Raffle we could do. Come and sit by the river with me for a while, and I'll tell you a story that's true of when I was a boy, playing here on the shore, and the grass was so green and the water so blue. Many years I have watched this river flow, flowing down from the hills to the ocean. I've seen its waters high, almost fierce, rushing by. I have seen it nearly dry without motion. Now at last you can see what it has come to. We've prospered, but always under. Now the tunes have all been played, and the piper must be paid, not by us, but our sons and daughters. Come and sit by the river with me for a while, and I'll tell you a story that's true of when I was a boy, laying here on the shore, and the grass was so green and the water so blue. Come and sit by the river with me for a while, and I'll tell you a story that's true of when I was a boy, laying here on the shore, and the grass was so green and the water so blue.
Hello, everyone. For a second, I thought my computer was broken. I wasn't hearing everyone clap. Hello, I'm Sophie Zakin. I'm the Admin and Program Director with Alliance for Affordable Energy, and I am thrilled to welcome everyone here tonight to Energy and You, a discussion on Renewable Portfolio Standards and the Renewable Portfolio Standard that we will be embarking on in New Orleans. I'd like to start everyone off before we have our wonderful speakers come. If you could, in the chat, have a little intro with your name, the neighborhood that you live in, and answer this one question. If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach? So that's name, neighborhood, and if you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach? I'll be putting that in the chat. But thank you everyone for coming to this meeting, and let's get started. Moni?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. I'm with the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice, And with Dawn Bear, Dawn, you want to say hello?
Hi.
We will be sharing with you the results of the survey for this energy and you conversation. Want you to know that this survey will be open until mid-October. And so if you haven't had a chance to answer it just yet, there's still time to do so. I'm hoping somebody can put in the chat the link where you can click on to get to the survey that's online. But with no further ado, we're going to go through the survey responses.
Okay, well, I'm Dawn Bear, and I'm a resident of New Orleans East, and I'm a member of the East New Orleans Neighborhood Advisory Commission. So I just want y'all to know I love this group. They've worked with us on so many issues to help improve and keep our communities safe. So to get started, did you know that?
Can you show the PowerPoint, Logan?
Got it. So I'm hoping everyone is staying cool in this very hot weather. If you have a pool, we'll be happy to come over.
Not sure what's happening. Your mic is off, Logan.
Okay. All right. You got it?
Okay. All right.
So this is we're going to just go through the questions and the answers and share a little bit of information. It gives you just more background and information about the question and the responses.
Okay.
On.
All right. So did you know that Entergy Corporation's profits over the last 12 months increased by 28% over last year? On a recent shareholder call, an Entergy executive said that even though sales to commercial industrial customers was down, that residents really came through for Entergy. Well, I guess so. We've been home since March, using our gas and electricity. So of course we came through, and again, we gave them more money, so their profits were higher. But on the survey, do you think Entergy should use the funds it has received from federal COVID-19 programs to reduce bill payments for customers facing economic hardships? 93.9% thought that was a great idea. And you know, as you can see, nobody said no. Some people thought that Entergy doesn't, Entergy doesn't use ratepayer funds for this. And a portion of the money used for the hardships, it was again a very small amount. But you know, so this just shows what the community thinks about Entergy, and we know that they are able and should be able to help out people right now with hardships that are not working. So hopefully they have come through and they will come through. Okay, Monique?
Yes, next question. Next slide, please. So next question is, do you think the New Orleans job market could benefit from renewable energy programs? And of the responses received so far, 100% of the folks said, yes, it can. And that is also backed up by what we know in terms of what's happening in the job market nationally, where work in renewable energy and energy efficiency is projected to be the second largest growth in the country. And we can certainly benefit from that in New Orleans, especially as part of a recovery initiative that we sorely need after COVID-19. You may not be aware of this, but even during this pandemic, rooftop solar projects and other solar developments are still going on at homes and businesses across the city. So a pandemic doesn't stop this work, and the opportunities can grow in terms of increasing a diversified set of skills among people who live in New Orleans and bringing us in this direction around renewable energy to do that. Next slide.
Okay, did you know even during the pandemic, you can get a free solar assessment for your home through the Solar for All program? From the survey, would you like to see more renewable energy and energy efficient services for construction and home improvements in your neighborhood? everybody said yes, which is great. But I would like to just give you some information on the programs that you may not be aware of. But there is a free solar assessment. And if you go to NOLA.gov, you can find that particular item. It's a Solar for All program. And it's solarforall.com if you wanted to log into it. And it is in partnership with Pasagen and Solar Alternatives. Also, there's the Energy Smart NOLA program, which I have personally used, and I think it's great. The representatives come to your home, they evaluate your home as far as energy efficiency. Also on the Energy Smart website, which is really great, you need to log into it and log in and actually just become a member of it. Because they get offers, they provide offers for light bulbs, for air conditioned monitors, and it's really a whole lot of stuff. They have surge protectors that are really sold at a reasonable price. So if you don't know about it, I would definitely encourage you to go into Energy Smart and share that with your neighborhoods and with your neighbors in Orleans Parish for sure. Okay, next slide. Okay, did you know Entergy's newest power plant is projected to emit approximately 400,000 tons of pollution annually? Do you think the public has a right to know the amount of pollution generated from energy supplied to New Orleans? And again, everybody said yes. It just so happens that I live in New Orleans East, and we will be affected by the gas-powered power plant that has been built in New Orleans East. Unfortunately, although many of us in the community spoke against the plant, we were concerned for our community. It was approved, and I believe it's still in litigation. So if anybody we are not paying for it at this moment.
Yeah,
but
the
I'm
approval
sure
was, yeah,
What?
sorry, Dawn, just to say that the city council approved it. We sued the city council and the judge threw the council's approval out, and the council then appealed it. And we should be hearing something back because it's now at the Louisiana State Supreme Court, the council's decision to approve it. So the fight still goes on. And this approval is about whether Entergy can charge us for the construction costs of the gas plant, which right now is estimated to be somewhere north of $700 million, which is a huge different from what they were telling the city council in their application, and when they're approximating it in the $200 million range.
And it was really unfortunate, the underhanded things that happened during that whole process, which I believe was maybe over a period of 3 years, 2 to 3 years. But I'm not sure who's on the chat, but I just want to thank everyone that did come out and support the community and support the ratepayers of New Orleans in fighting against this plant and, just trying not to have it happen. But it did teach us a lesson as to, how things are run in Orleans Parish. Okay, Monique?
Next slide, please. So do you think the city council should make nuclear energy part of the city's clean and renewable energy future? The answers are, this one is a little bit varied. 60.6% of folks said no, 24.2% said yes, and then there was a range of folks with different opinions. One being not sure of the pros and cons of nuclear energy, and that could be an opening for education about those pros and cons. Another response is that this is a difficult question because some modeling suggests that nuclear energy will be required to achieve the 1.5 degree climate threshold. Another response was that they think it should be something else. Another response is that it should only be seen as a last resort. And then another idea was, response was that just uncertain. So this could be an opportunity, I think, for more energy and you discussions to get into nuclear energy. But one thing that's important to know is that the electricity we use from Entergy right now, a certain amount of that comes from nuclear energy from the Grand Gulf facility. And the cost of that, you might be interested to know, is 3 times the market rate. So Entergy is paying itself with our dollars 3 times more the amount that it could get from other electricity generated from nuclear energy on the grid. So it's a problem on a lot of levels, not only in terms of the radioactive waste, but also the huge heavy cost burden it brings to the people of New Orleans and the way Entergy charges us on those bills. Last survey question, I'll take that one. And that was, do you have a concern about the direction of energy policy? 94.1% of the folks said yes. A smaller amount of folks thought no, and then another, again, need to know the specifics of the energy policy reference. Again, another opportunity for further engagement, information sharing, and conversation. One thing that you may know, you may not know, but I want to make sure everyone on this call is aware that we have something very unique here in the city of New Orleans. And that is, we regulate our own utility companies. If you go outside of New Orleans, anywhere outside in Louisiana or around the country, you'll see that that regulation happens at the state level of government through a public utility commission or a public service commission. Here in New Orleans, we regulate Entergy and other utility companies like Cox Cable through our city council. And all of the city council members are elected by the voters. And so this is a real intimate relationship we have in terms of energy decisions, for example, and how companies that and governmental entities that provide those services, how they're regulated, and which means a real opportunity where we can, through the vote of city council members, get sharper and hone in on ways in which we can make much needed improvements in our city. So that's the end of the survey responses. Again, we're going to keep that open through mid-October. If you haven't responded, please do so, and please share and tell your friends, neighbors, and others. We'd love to get more responses and hear from more and more people from the here in the city of New Orleans. Thank you.
Hey, Monique, thanks. So now that we talked about those surveys, we got a survey for you all. So on your screen in a few seconds, you're going to see a polling question. Please take a moment to answer the question. Let me know if you don't see the question. Or okay, well, I see it, so I think y'all can see it. Okay, cool. Gonna give them like another 30 seconds.
Can I vote twice?
Thanks, John. In the meantime, will you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey everyone, my name is I'm Trey Sean Webb with Hazel, and I also work with the EFNO Coalition, Energy Future New Orleans. And yeah, nice to be here and nice to have y'all participating with us. I'm liking the results. I think a lot of y'all know my face from housing and just assume that it impacts housing more. I'm being funny, but it actually has an impact on all of these things, and I like that. It's like that the votes are kind of scattered across. I don't know if many of you selected one or two, but an effective and well-designed RPS can actually have an impact on all of these industries. Our economy is so tourist-based right now that because of COVID-19, many people are being left out of employment and opportunities. Just last week, places like Commander's Palace and many hotels in downtown announced that they're going to be laying off almost 1,500 employees for a period longer than 6 months. So what an RPS can do is kind of like address this by, one of the things that's going on top of the COVID-19 is the oil and gas industry is tanking, which is kind of impacting jobs in our statewide economy. But the green industry and green jobs are on the up and up. And the effective RPS would bring us right there with that. We already build wind turbines, but can you imagine what we'll be doing if we were already doing other technologies like solar and with energy storage and energy efficiency With each of those, we can also improve our housing stock while also addressing costly utility bills by reducing our peak need, which also reduces our water bill, believe it or not. And RPS could also, an RPS would reduce sewage and water bills, utility bills, which is a large part of the reason why we have large utility bills. And it would also increase resiliency with our, increase the resiliency of sewage and water board by having, one of the main reasons that we always have these boil water advisories is because the lights go out. But with again, with community solar and solar energy in general, with storage and energy efficiency, we can prevent all of this from happening while reducing their bills and giving us added resilience. I'm not sure if you all are familiar, but can you, in the chat, I want you to kind of like put, if you have for a second, do you all know how many people were left without lights for Hurricane Katrina? I'm gonna say for Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and why that was? They were left without lights. How many people? Like maybe I'll give it like a second. How many people in Puerto Rico were left without light? Yes, millions of people in Puerto Rico were left without lights because of the hurricane and how it impacted. But one of the things, and similar thing happened in New Orleans, people weren't able to come back. People weren't able to come back after Hurricane Katrina because lights weren't on. And, you know, so one of the things that with an effective RPS, if we had it, well, we wouldn't have it in place then, but if we had one in place going forward, we can address some of this by having, again, solar panels and energy storage, and just better preparing ourselves for the coming change that we already know that we're coming for, that's already coming. We need more resilient energy sources, and we need to better prepare for the future that we already know we're headed for. What we really need is a resilient and renewable portfolio standard. And I'm going to hand it over to Logan to talk about why we need the renewable portfolio standard that we need.
Sure, thanks. I'm going to share my other screen. So most renewable portfolio standards that have been implemented around the country are just this. It's a really simple mandate to meet energy needs using an increasing portion or percentage of renewables. And those renewables in every part of the country, that definition is a little bit different. We think that those renewables should include wind, solar, hydro, geothermal, and certainly things that can help reduce our energy use entirely, like energy efficiency and other demand side management programs. So we had been asking the New Orleans City Council to move on a renewable portfolio standard for ages. And a couple of years ago, they finally responded to a petition, a letter to them, just simply asking for a rulemaking, asking for the council to consider a renewable portfolio standard. And so last year, they opened a docket and allowed public input via formal parties like the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice, Audubon, and the Alliance for Affordable Energy, and lots of others who are here on the call and are part of the Energy Future New Orleans Coalition. We put together something that was a little broader than a basic renewable portfolio standard. We made a recommendation for something that is more resilient, that is really more targeted to the needs of New Orleanians, especially as the climate is changing, as Trayshawn mentioned. So what we recommended was based on community input. Last year we held symposia. We listened to various community groups, including the the Climate Action and Equity Program. It was a consortium of folks, both community leaders, I think some of them are on the call, and others around the city, listening to the kinds of things that you're looking for and that matter to you in terms of your energy. And we took that and we looked at other successful renewable portfolio standards around the country. And Carl might talk about this in a moment, but what we know is that renewable portfolio standards have become so successful that even as these mandates have been in place in other places, regulators, legislators have had to up the ante because utilities have been able to meet those goals already. And so we said, well, let's not start with 50%, let's go to 100. We said, as the Energy Future New Orleans Coalition, led by community voices, Let's go to 100% renewable and energy efficiency and demand side management by 2040. And let's get there by ramping up slowly. We also insist that a renewable portfolio standard for the city of New Orleans absolutely must be mandatory. In every place that it makes sense to do these renewable portfolio standards, which is everywhere, it is a policy that that the state of Louisiana could take and make it its own, especially considering that the governor just today announced an intention to move toward, or rather move away from carbon emissions for the state. A renewable portfolio standard and a resilient renewable portfolio standard could be just the kind of thing that where the rubber meets the road on that kind of a goal. So we made this policy vision and we gave it to the council through this rulemaking. And now I'll tell you what some of the other recommendations were. Oh, actually, I'm going to tell you some of the tools that we think we need to use to get there. One is community solar, and that is the kind of large installation of solar panels that if you are a renter or you don't own your home, you can have a piece of, and that could be distributed throughout the city of New Orleans. In fact, the Climate Action Equity Project recommended that community solar be moved forward. The City Council approved these rules, but they've been really slow to finalize them over the last year. And so we really want for the council to continue to take action on this, because it means that renewable portfolio standard in New Orleans will not just be about what Entergy is spending money on, but it's about ownership right here in our community, homegrown. We also want to make sure, as Dawn described, more energy efficiency, more energy smart, and even water management. Sewage and Water Board is our city's largest energy user, and anything that we can do to reduce their pumping and reduce their water loss that goes right into our ground and doesn't actually get served to us, that's the largest energy efficiency measure we can possibly think of. And so everybody out there who's got a rain barrel and a rain garden, we need to be doing more of that. Distributed solar and storage. I heard mentioned also by Dawn, there's a Solar for All NOLA program that is being headed up by GNOHA, that's the Greater New Orleans Housing Alliance, Posigen, and Solar Alternatives. That's something you can be doing right now. Even during the pandemic, you can get a free assessment of your home and see if it makes sense for you to have solar on your rooftop, which can help reduce your bills and reduce the emissions that our city is responsible for. And then we could also be incentivizing additional distributed resources. So some of the recommendations that were given when we were suggesting a resilient renewable portfolio standard, 100%, Entergy was recommending a voluntary program, which would be just 70% clean by 2030. The large bulk of that would have been nuclear. It's a major dependence on Entergy's existing nuclear plants, and their plan would have added only around 150 megawatts of new renewable energy by 2030. That's not an awful lot, and even in the last 10 years, New Orleanians, that is New Orleans residents and businesses, have already added I think 40 or 50 megawatts. So you can see right now that if we were to ramp up, we could do way better than what Entergy is suggesting. The advisors, the City Council's advisors, they are consultants, legal and technical. They have recommended a mandatory goal, but they've gone short of what we have been recommending. They also include Entergy's nuclear plants. But they recommend going 100% net zero by 2040. Net zero is a way to describe you're not really zero, but you're getting extra credit for something. And then they suggest we go 100% zero carbon by 2050. And they encourage the use of carbon capture, sequestration, and utilization, which is something that hasn't ever worked anywhere, and certainly isn't a cost-effective option for the city of New Orleans. So the City Council in April of this year did pass a resolution. They said they wanted a mandatory 100% net zero emission program by 2040. They said they want a reliance on RECs phased out between 2040 and 2050. RECs are some of that sort of, you can go get some credit elsewhere and pretend for the short term. Then there's no carbon emitting resources by 2050. So that's getting rid of everything, including that new New Orleans gas plant. And then the carbon cost, or the cost cap. The city council is looking out for folks' bills, and they want to see that a renewable portfolio standard doesn't increase bills more than 1%. So since April, and this is my last slide, the Energy Future New Orleans Coalition, Entergy, and the city council advisors have had these 2 technical conferences to try and hammer out how to get to what the council has said they want and the positions that all these other parties have taken. And thus far, we are pretty far apart. We have very different ideas about what the realities are for the needs of the people of New Orleans, how to get there, who should be leading, which is a really important piece here. And unfortunately, it's gotten a lot more complicated. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go right ahead and hand it to Carl to talk about what those complications mean.
Carl, you're
There we go. Yep.
You
I found my unmute. I'm Carl Robigo, and I am calling in from Denver, and I've been doing work with Logan and everybody else in the Energy Future New Orleans Coalition through the Audubon Society. So I thought I'd bring some of their friends with me for the purpose of these comments. And by the way, they have these cute backgrounds if you have to do Zoom calls with all kinds of lovely birds. So if you're looking for a way to dress up yourself or dress up your background, you'll only do so much with this. I highly recommend it. This is a complicated subject, and it can be made much more complicated than it needs to. And as Logan was introducing the subject to us, she was pointing out that New Orleans is not the first place to adopt a renewable portfolio standard. There's a lot of experience that can be drawn upon. And I will tell you just from my work and looking around at these things, simple, clear, and direct seems to work best. There's always a lot of hand wringing and gnashing of teeth before renewable portfolio standards get started. Everybody says, oh, it's going to be expensive. It's never as expensive as everybody assumes. That just like pollution control, oh, it's too expensive to control pollution. And suddenly where it works much better than the naysayers would have you believe. Simple works better and clear works better because these utilities are trained to respond to clear regulatory guidance. They will tell you they thrive under regulatory certainty. And so we've actually asked for the maximum amount of regulatory certainty in going forward. Now, Monique already mentioned that New Orleans is pretty unusual in that it regulates its own investor-owned utility, not a municipal utility, but a private company, Entergy, that is regulated by the city. The only other major example I know of is Washington, D.C. But there's a critical difference. Washington, D.C. has invested in a professional staff that advises the council and the regulators, the commissioners appointed to oversee PEPCO. New Orleans hasn't gotten that far yet, and they're still using these folks called the advisors. The advisors are a contracted firm of people that live, I think actually somewhere, most of them live out in the East Coast. They're consultants. And I promise you, they probably hear a lot more from Entergy than they do you, because Entergy hires people to stay in contact with the advisors and then charges you for it in your rates. what we found from the advisors when they were given this mission by the city council to write a RPS that met the city council's high level goals was that the advisors seemed to be bending over backwards to make things as easy as possible for Entergy. And even though Entergy didn't get the voluntary standard they wanted, there are so many opportunities for excuse making, off ramps, and delay in what the advisors have proposed that some of us are beginning to wonder if that proposal would actually accomplish what council wanted. What we wanted, as Logan said, and what we believe you want is renewable and locally strong electricity. That's what we mean when we say resilient. That the energy sources used to heat our homes and power our equipment and charge our cell phones is clean and always available, locally strong, that we're not dependent on a grid that seems to always go down or large power plants that frequently fail or have to be taken down for maintenance. So while we've been clear in the message, and while we think and we applaud the City Council for being clear in their message that this needs to be a mandatory clean energy portfolio standard with renewable energy as the source for all electricity, the advisors have found ways to lessen the burden on Entergy. Now, there is this provision that the council already built in that the cost should not be higher than a 1% increase. All the studies I've seen make it clear that renewable energy is the less expensive option. So even a 1% limit, which doesn't sound like a lot of wiggle room, is not much. If the utility did a good job planning, they'd do like utilities across the country, and they'd be increasing their use of renewable energy and decreasing dependence on natural gas and nuclear and coal, which is also part of the system, the broader grid that serves us. So one clear thing to make, one point I cannot say over and over again enough times, the council did the right thing. They required a mandatory RPS. What we're concerned about is that the advisors are watering down that requirement and almost basically going with Entergy's trust us approach to changing the way electricity is made. Our analysis confirms from looking at it and reading it and discussing it in a series of calls we have every single week and sometimes more than once a week, is that the advisors have bent over backwards to build in those excuses and off-ramps for Entergy, and they've ignored our repeated requests for just some simple things, like making sure we had an information and data platform so we could track how things go, and clarity and analysis to back up the numbers that they're proposing in the detailed plan. We're excited. We continue to remain excited about this. We should not get down, depressed, or throw up our hands at this initiative. The council has the chance to do the right thing, but they're going to need us telling them that they got to stay the course, that they shouldn't listen to the advisors and Entergy, that New Orleans can be the first major utility system in the Southeast United States with a portfolio standard depending on renewable energy, if they will order it so. And the benefits will be cleaner air and local jobs and lower costs and secure locally strong energy for New Orleans for a long time. And maybe, just maybe, it'll set the powerful example for the rest of Louisiana, which, having lived in, back when I was in the Army many years ago, Louisiana could use some more good examples, like New Orleans to lean on. The successful states don't water down their standards. The successful regulators don't water down their standards. They maintain a strong standard, and they tell those professional utilities who get so much of our money to figure it out. So far, they've never been disappointed, and you won't be either. So that's my summary of it. I look forward to talking about it more with folks. Thank you again for letting me be a part of this important work. Next, I think Nick is going to introduce us to the breakout questions. Is that right, Nick?
Yes, sir. I'm Nick. I've been helping EFNO with a little organizing here and there. But I want to just kind of kick things off. I want to first applaud Logan, Carl, Andy, Gary, Brent, and the many others for spending the countless hours doing the research and technical analysis that was presented to you to make the best RPS possible, and for relentlessly working the halls of City Council to make sure the case has been heard. And it's been no easy task. As they can tell you, you know, welcome with open arms because, I mean, our adversaries are in high places and they've got a lot of influence. But I'm confident in the message we're sending. The research and science shows that our RPS is the best option for people of New Orleans. And I also want to thank all the dedicated volunteers and organizers like Pooja, Nick, Renata, Angie, and Peter, and the dozens of people who've shown up for phone banking events, canvassing events, planning sessions, and all kinds of other activities we had to get the word out. And we got many concerned citizens to contact their council member. And we had over 1,000 petition signatures, dozens of small business letter sign-ons, and I was proud to see all these people kind of stepping up to show their support for RPS. But I mean, as touched on earlier, apparently it wasn't enough because here goes the City Council or the advisors, I guess, you know, kind of subverting that pressure, and we've only gotten this watered down version of the RPS known as the Clean Portfolio Standard. And you know, while it is true the first step is important, symbolically important, we must, as the revolutionary Emil Brawl said, claim no easy, and I'll say, claim no easy victories. We did all this work. We did not do all this work. And we should not be happy until we see affordable energy for all New Orleanians. Until we see a resilient power grid able to come back from storms and blackouts, and until we see a prosperous job market. But this isn't to say I'm not optimistic. You know, I'm not, you know, one to give up. I don't hold my optimism at the people at the top, the CEOs, the lawmakers that they pay for. I'm optimistic that we can grow our message and expand our community support to get even more folks than before to create the necessary pressures so that the City Council will have no other choice but to improve the material conditions of our lives. So I say, no more outrageously high electricity bills, no more blackouts, no more land loss, no more poverty. So with that, I think we should kind of reflect on how we connect with this issue in the breakout sections and go over some prompted questions. So I hope people will be able to share. Yeah, so the questions are, do you think your voice matters in the City Council? Why or why not? And what do you think moves the City Council to take action?
All right, I'm going to move everyone into breakout rooms.
Great.
there.
Do you want to tell everybody how much time they have?
Everyone
Yeah.
has 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay.
All right. I hope that went well for everybody. We had some interesting conversations. And I think Angel now is going to kind of facilitate a little round robin report out and give us some next steps.
Yes, I can do that. I accidentally took myself out of the meeting, so I'm trying to get sharing privileges back. But hi, yes, I'm Angel, volunteer with EFNO and Sierra Club Delta chapter. And yes, okay, we had 4 breakouts. So let me share my screen with y'all. Yeah. All right, so I was in breakout 1 and breakout room 1 and inadvertently made myself the reporter. So I'll share from breakout room 1 our answers to both questions. So from each breakout, we'll want to hear back what you thought about as far as, do you think your voice matters to the city council? Why or why not? And then what do you think moves the city council to take action? For my group, of course, city council, as far as our voice mattering with the city council, a lot of us felt like not so much unless we were big donors or had big turnouts. And we were concerned around our voice mattering in instances where the leadership's attention is so divided, and how do we kind of cut through that noise? And as far as what do we think moves the city council to take action, our group felt that expressing the cost effectiveness of an RRPS is crucial, expressing that, and the return on investment from it, as well as lifting up and pushing influential voices from the business or corporation communities to be the face of renewables. And something else that was mentioned was allowing, which I thought was a really great point, was allowing for the city council to feel like they're retaining authority and autonomy within the framework of whatever you're working on. So do we have someone who wants to report back from breakout room 2?
I think that's me, Liz Davey. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I think on does your voice matter to the council? There was a sense that it does on issues where it's easy for them to decide, then community voices matter. But when it's an issue, when it's a tough issue or issue that involves social or economic justice, then they're just not hearing people. There was a nice comment about how this, you know, how their regulation of Entergy doesn't come up as an election issue, how it's that role and job as being part of, you know, of regulating Entergy isn't something that's discussed during the election, so that we don't actually have a chance to hear them talk about what they would do and to judge them and use that moment of leverage on them in energy issues. So, and then what moves them? You know, recognition that they need to please as many people as possible. Actions, you know, that will have positive benefits for many different people, actions that make them look like heroes was a nice comment, and not just helping them sort of understand or communicate if they take these actions, the positive impacts, the specific positive impacts for people in the community, you know, rather than keeping it in the realm of the technical language of energy regulation. So if this action is taken, it's going to mean this in terms of reducing fuel bills or helping people deal with heat waves or keeping the community, making the community healthier. And just communicating a lot of the impacts in terms of impacts on people's personal lives. So, and that's it.
Thank you for sharing. And I went really quick, so I appreciate you taking your time, and everyone else feel free to take your time from the other breakout groups because we have a little bit more time for discussion. Was that all you wanted to say? Everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Breakout room 3, what about y'all?
I think that's us. If there's no other group 3, and if it is, I'm going to hand it over to Francis.
All right. So hi, everyone. My name's Francis. I was in the wonderful group 3, a lot of great thinkers. And so basically, we agreed with some of the other groups that we don't feel that the council necessarily listens to us. We feel there was some conversation about how people vote one way and then later they'll change their stance, or they'll say one thing to your face and then they'll do something different. So there's a need to build trust for those relationships. As far as moving individuals, there were some different suggestions. I think that what I took away was that personal connections matter. Like, people are moved by power and money and their ambition. So like, some council members might be wanting to have other additional political offices, like maybe become mayor, maybe even ambitions beyond that. So like, you know, their public image matters a lot, but also like money and influence. And I just added that perhaps family members and that personal connection can matter. There was also some discussion about getting the constituents in particular districts, if I remember correctly, to talk about how they're impacted by high bills. So that might move some members. But yeah, I'll just hand it over to my other group members.
I honestly think you covered it all. I think you did a good job. Logan, do you want to add anything? Then we're good. You can hand it over to group 4, Angel.
Okay, cool. Breakout room 4.
We forgot to pick a spokesperson, so I'll start off, but then Robert and Viola and Marian can chime in on gaps we created. Similar reflections that other groups have offering. We focused on the fact that we believe the coalition is going to be good about getting this information in letters that have been prepared and communications, but that we need to come in through as many channels as possible. That the council members need to hear this stuff in various different pathways and continuously, so that they know it's real, and to counterbalance the constant communications they're surely receiving from the utility, and that they will be receiving from the advisors who they pay and therefore have some inclination to listen to. We actually had some uncertainty about what actual mechanisms are working for connecting with council members, and we thought it would be great if we could get several people onto some Zoom calls or other kinds of structures where they could see that people care enough to chime in. But we were not sure if any of those mechanisms were in place. I'll stop there. Robert, Viola, Marian, did you guys want to add anything else?
I liked the idea of, I think you kind of said it, but to combine tacts. So try and meet with them just like we used to meet in person, request a Zoom meeting, and then follow that up with some strong op-ed letters where we may show them the letter privately and then say, this is what's going to be going public, and to really focus on these technical issues, because they may not, council may not appreciate that we, you know, the public do know about these technical issues that Entergy is trying to sneak by us.
And I would just like to add that I think it's really important to take on the advice. They've been doing a disservice for years now, and we need to find some way to challenge them.
Okay, did anybody want to share?
Viola?
Okay, no problem. I will add breakout room one's notes to this too. But let me get back to my other screen. All right, so just as some follow-ups to our breakout room discussions, which we will absolutely keep going in future calls. And we will email all the attendees the contact info for city council members regarding what we discussed today. But dates to keep in mind with the city council. So we want to start now talking to council members about what you would like to see in a resilient renewable portfolio standard for New Orleans. On August 30th, so the end of the month, the city council receives RPS proposal from contract advisors, and we'll set a time for public comment. And we're thinking around September 15th that we will have the next Energy and You discussion webinar. And around mid-October, so we'll get the specific date and relay to you, but around mid-October, the City Council will start the process for general energy planning, known as the Integrated Resource Plan.
And that that meeting for the that public meeting for the integrated resource plan is a really important one, because it is an opportunity for folks to visibly let the council and the advisors see that we are interested in how what the power, the energy future looks like, aside from just the renewable portfolio standard. Because the IRP is really the meat in the sandwich. It's actually how the thing moves forward. Let's see, where are we now? So Angel, were you finished with your slides?
Yes, that is it for me.
Okay. Well, it looks like we may be done early today.
We are so efficient.
When does that happen? But before I let you go, we have a raffle as promised. Thanks to our friends at Posigen and Solar Alternatives. We have 2 raffle items. And Sophie is going to give us a number, the numbers between, so how many there are to pick from. And then I'm going to ask, let's see, I'm going to ask Nichelle and Viola for each of you a number between those 2 numbers, okay? So let's say she said a number between 1 and 10. I need a number between 1 and 10 from Nichelle and from Viola. Are we able to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's between 1 and 15.
Okay.
I'm going to say 11.
1 and 18?
1 and 1, 5.
Okay.
1 and 7.
So just say one number.
I'm going to say 11.
Number. Okay, number 7.
7, all right.
7, okay. And then Nichelle?
I said 11.
7 and 11.
11. All right, well, it's good to know that those people are still on this call. So the first thing that we'll raffle off is the solar power cell.
Yep, the cell phone charger.
Cell phone charger. And that is going to go to number 7, Liz Davy.
All right, Liz did some good work too. Good job.
Awesome.
That one
We're
is
just trying to
thanks-
show the charger.
A visual example of what the solar charger looks like. It's about as big as, you know, like somebody's hand maybe. And you set it out in the sun and it charges itself and it can charge your phone. So
awesome.
You'll get one of these.
We could really use that. Thank you very much.
And thanks to Ruta, who put some more information about Solar for All in the chat. And Sophie, are you ready to do the solar backpack?
Yes, but so that person is no longer on this call. And I feel like we have to do people that are on this call, right?
Agreed.
Yes.
All
Somebody
right,
got to pick another number.
Let's do that. Who wants to pick another number?
I can pick another number since I lost. I'm gonna go with 3.
Oh, I just said 3.
Oh, well, I'll go with 8.
This is a problem that many people have already left the call. What should we do? People on the call only, right? Only on the call?
Only on the call.
All right, so then in that case, number 8 is Nichelle.
That's awesome. So that one is thanks to our friends at Solar Alternatives. Ken, do you want to say anything about the backpack?
Sure. It is, I have some specs here. It is a solar powered backpack. I'll put a picture of it in the chat if we can do that. And it is actually, I don't have, well, unlike Ruta, I don't have one with me here. So I'll have to coordinate.
That's okay.
Sorry to put you on the spot. And that's all right. Sorry, I didn't have one together, but I will be in touch about it.
No worries. So, so winners, we will email you and make sure that we have your location information so we can get that stuff to you. To everyone else, we will be sharing all of the contact information for your council members, and we will stay in touch with you as these deadlines keep rolling so that you continue to be engaged and know what is going on.
Great job. Good evening.
Good night to everyone.
I think the musicians are gone, but thank you again to the
amazing.
musicians.
Yes,
They did a great job.
Thank you, Penny,
awesome.
for making that happen.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
Have a good one.
Thanks,
Peace out.
Bye, everybody.
It was a great meeting. Thank you.